Hello there and welcome. Welcome, fellow spiritual psychic friends and seekers of the cosmic light. It's Psychic Cynthia here, spiritual psychic Cynthia Killian. And have you been dealing with confusion lately? I'm wondering. Something I want to ask you today as I'm filming. Have you been finding that you've been going back and forth on decisions lately? Have you noticed that? That there's a lot of going back and forth? It's as if you think you've made up your mind to go on a certain path, and maybe you even start on that path and you start taking action. Maybe you start looking for new work, or even take on a new job, or buy a new house, or start a new project. And then the next thing you know, you're second guessing that. Maybe you're second guessing the decision to start a new relationship, or the decision to leave a relationship. Are you finding this, that you're going back and forth? Or maybe you're finding it's been harder lately to make decisions. Well, if you're having any of that, I wanted to let you know that that is not at all surprising, because right now we are in the midst of 6 major planetary retrogrades. And this affects things on Earth. And actually, we're going to be adding another retrograde near the end of this month, because Mercury will enter its retrograde proper on the night of September 26th. It will technically be September 27th for those of us in the Central and Eastern time zone, but it's that Sunday night. So that's going to be added into all the other retrogrades we have. And so there are many right now. And this retrograde energy, it brings up things, it stirs things up, it stirs the pot. And, and if you haven't heard that term retrograde, I'm referring to the movements of the planets, the apparent motion, from Earth. Apparent meaning it looks as if these planets are going backwards. They're not actually. And if you wanted to get into studying the more astronomical part of it, the scientific, you'd start to understand what's happening is these heavenly bodies, their orbits are actually slowing way down. They slow down. Okay, dear one. And it has that kind of effect on us too, no matter what the retrograde is. And you could look at each one of these retrogrades individually. But right now we have so many, we just maybe for a moment need to look at the fact that it's a collective energy. We're like in a collective retrograde right now. So things seem like they're going backwards. It's that feeling of 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. Okay? And if you're experiencing that, that's normal right now. That's not at all something I would say is weird, because it's to be expected with the retrograde energy. Now, sometimes, you get lucky and you just sort of seem to sail right through in one or more area. But don't let that go to your head if that's happening, okay? And embrace it, enjoy it. But don't tempt the gods by, saying, oh, well, this never affects me. Because that's just a sure way to tempt fate with that kind of hubris, you know what I mean? But yes, when we have this many planets in retrograde, it's a signal from the universe to slow down, to rethink things and reassess. So it is natural that you would vacillate a little, that you would go back and forth on decisions. And this is probably going to get a little bit more intense in this regard. You're probably going to be doing that even more after the Sun enters Libra later this month. I believe that's around the 22nd. I don't have my notes on that here, but yes, I think that the Sun enters Libra, and then we have Mercury, retrograding not too long after that. So, yeah, because Mercury retrograde is on the night of the 26th, early morning of the 27th. So, and Libra is the scale, so Libra vacillates anyway and has to look at all sides. That's not all bad though, right? If you are having a hard time making decisions right now, it's okay to slow down a little bit and not be in too much of a hurry. That's one of the things the retrograde energy is saying to us. But also, the reason that it's harder to make decisions during times like these of many retrogrades at once, the reason is simply that there's a lot of karma coming back up, okay? I mean, why is there more confusion? Okay, because partly you're having a hard time, not just because you're slowing down, but because it's harder to think more clearly, to know what you want. Why is it so hard to know what you want right now? because you're dealing with an intensification of karma. We all are right now. And you can look around, look at society, what's happening. I mean, if your eyes are even halfway opening, it's true. We're dealing with a lot of heavy karma right now. We're purging karma. At least we're being given a chance to do that. And the thing is, karma has an energy. Whatever your karma is, it has a weight to it. And so we get kind of weighed down when there are a lot of retrogrades, because the retrogrades intensify the karma. They bring more karma up. And karma, oh my goodness, that's such a vast topic. But I think, on a very simple level, like really compounding it, bringing it down into distilling the essence of karma. The essence of karma has to do with rebalancing. And so wherever we've been out of balance in our life, which also relates to Libra, the sign the sun will be in later this month, wherever we've been out of balance, these retrogrades point that out, and they're giving us a chance to heal. Karma also just has to do with loose ends, and where you have unresolved emotions, unresolved fears, unresolved traumas. That's part of what's keeping many people, maybe you, from making a decision right now, is because you want to move forward and you're looking at the future and trying to figure out what you will do or which direction you'll go in, but you're also carrying this emotional and karmic and spiritual baggage. So partly you're trying to make that decision from the viewpoint of your traumatized self, of yourself that is carrying all the karma. So what's the solution? Well, I think one solution is to deal with your stuff, okay? Start facing your stuff as it comes up. Stop pushing down your emotions. And also stop, if you can, be mindful of when you project onto others. And, a good way to tell that is if you find yourself getting worked up about somebody else's behavior. I mean, especially if it has really nothing directly to do with you. Like if you're worked up about what they decide to do for their job, what they decide to do with their lives, their bodies, or their past. It's not your karma. But then you take on karma when you meddle in their karma. Okay, so I know it's hard sometimes because we care about other people and we want to see good for them and we think we know, but you don't know. You don't know what's good for another person. I don't know. Okay, like in other words, we don't know what their soul wants to do. So a good way to avoid adding karma is to stop meddling in other people's business and concerning yourself with what they are or are not doing, unless it directly involves you. Okay, if it really directly, personally impacts you, then yeah, but even then, I mean, a lot of times, if somebody's doing something that harms you, obviously get out, but if it just annoys you, maybe you need to change your attitude and not pay so much attention to it. I mean, it kind of depends, okay? I'm not talking about like abuse. I mean, if there's abuse, don't stay in that situation. Get the heck out, period, okay? But if it's just like you don't like what that other person's doing, well, maybe you need to get busy doing your own thing and working on your own karma. And that's the other thing. There are ways to cleanse karma. There are many ways. I mean, one way is through therapy and working through your issues. And another way is meditation. As we meditate and lift our frequencies, we can lighten our karma. Now, it does require doing some things sometimes to clear up the karma. So that may be what you're working on right now. That may be why you're not able to move ahead too, because you might feel like there's still some things you need to take care of first. And indeed, there may be. As I was meditating on this issue and asking my guides, what can we do to move forward, or, how can we approach this to make it a little bit easier to make decisions right now and move forward? I was given a list of questions that we should ask ourselves. So let me read those to you now, just real quick, if I can read my handwriting. So just a few quick questions to ask yourself if you're having difficulties moving ahead right now in any way, especially making decisions or carrying through with decisions, or if you're just confused about life direction. first off, number one, my guide said that we should ask yourself, you should ask yourself, what is unresolved in my life that I need to face? So where do you have loose ends? And that's on any level. You could say, what emotional things do you have unresolved that you need to face? What health issues do you have unresolved that you need to face? What mental ideas? What is it that is unresolved? And it could be unresolved from a very long time ago, because some of these retrogrades we're dealing with are the outer planets, and they move very slow. So that signifies deeper energies. It could be past life issues that are unresolved. But listen, if you're just starting in on this work right now, stay with this life, before you go too far into the past life. Deal with the stuff here first. Try to work on that level, and then go back to the past. And sometimes I will say, especially during retrograde times like this where there's many, a lot of times you can get spontaneous past life insights. You'll see, oh yes, this is from a past life. It'll just come to you. At least that's the way it happens for me. And I think for people who are more naturally psychic, not just professional psychics, okay, but those of you who are more intuitive, you might have some flashes that some of these unresolved issues originated in a past life. But it doesn't matter if they originated back then. You can't resolve them here. There's always a way to do something to help resolve that to close the circle. So ask yourself, what is it? What is unresolved that you do need to face now? Now listen, there may be a lot of things unresolved. You don't need to face them all now. What is unresolved that you need to face now? And another question that was suggested from the guides is to ask yourself, what have I been putting off that I really need to begin dealing with? So what have you been putting off addressing or doing that you really need to begin dealing with? And I'll give you a little tip about this. I think that a good way to meditate upon that would be to get started. Go back in time if you can, just a little bit, and think about what was going on, if you can, or what you were thinking about before these retrogrades started. And they all started at different times, but generally this tendency for the piled up retrogrades we have now, I think you'd want to go back to late May or early June, and maybe slightly before then. So what was going on in May 2020, early June, 2021, early June 2021? What were you thinking about doing or doing, or what had come up? You might need to finish up on that, okay? Or go back and deal with that. And it might be further off than that, or it might just be something from last week. It could be something purely mundane. It doesn't always have to be like a deeper emotional or higher level psychic issue. And the reason for that is simple. Our universe is holographic. In other words, your life, every piece of your life reflects the whole. So let's say, I had been putting off getting, my car looked at getting the oil changed and stuff. I mean, I hadn't done it. I didn't do it in 2020. Now I don't get a lot of miles on it, but still, it needed to be done just because it's old. So I went and got that done, and that was working in the hologram. That actually helped to shift my energy. So again, what have you been putting off addressing or dealing with that you really do need to begin dealing with now because you feel it is time? And now this last question the guides gave me for us to consider, it's kind of a heavy one, okay? So I want you to take a deep breath with me. And as I read this, I want you to open your heart and just, be willing to be raw and vulnerable, as you ask yourself this. And it's kind of a hard question to ask ourselves. A lot of us wouldn't want to ask ourselves this, but here it goes. In what area of life have I not been meeting my responsibilities or living up to my highest potential? In what area or areas of life have you not been meeting your responsibilities or living up to your highest potential? I want you to meditate upon that, because if there's any area where you can think of that, then maybe these retrogrades will offer you an opportunity for a reset, a course redirection. Um, if there's something that really calls out at you, you know that this is an area where you could take care of it. A responsibility, maybe even, that is yours. That's a karma, right? Maybe it's time to deal with that, or to start taking steps to live up to your higher potential, to really begin committing to that purpose. And then finally, another tough question. So let's take another deep breath in. The guide said that, to clear our energy and help us get right back on the path, they said we could ask ourselves, in what ways have I not been there for someone in my life lately, or have I withheld love? Have you withheld love from anybody lately? It could be because they have a different opinion on you about, say, things that are going on in the world now, pro or con. If you're withholding love, that obscures your inner consciousness. Because, love is a very high frequency. It's the highest frequency. So don't withhold love, okay? Just because somebody, wants to go a different path than you. Because if you do that, you're damaging yourself. And you're going to keep that cloud of confusion around you. And have you not been there for someone in your life? Maybe you haven't been there for yourself. That's something to consider, I think. Are you there for yourself? Are you your own best friend? Do you nurture yourself? Do you take time for yourself? Because it's good to fill your own cup, to renew your own inner well, your own resources. You have to resource yourself. And then it's also good to be there for the people in your life, but only to the point that it is, mutually empowering, uplifting. It should feel good, even if it's a kind of sacrifice, even if you want to give a lot. And I'm for that, by the way. I think that we should all give more love, and be more sharing with our resources if we can. I think everybody has an area where they're rich and wealthy. I don't mean in money. A lot of us, don't have, the wealth, but some of us do, right? And like me, I'm, richer and wealthier in the psychic realm and the astrological realm, so I share that with you. Where can you share? Maybe your riches and wealth are with your artistic eye, or your ability to play music, or to cook, or maybe you listen to people well. Maybe you're a good chauffeur. I don't know. I don't know where it is that you have, a little bit more wealth and richness and talent and skill, or just natural aptitude than others. But that's something that, you should consider sharing. And if we all shared, from this place of overflowingness, think what a richer world it would be. What a more abundant world. I mean, that would be true abundance for us all. If we all shared of ourselves, of those strengths, I'm saying, those strengths, which kind of ties back into your higher potential. Sometimes your higher potential, too, you don't even see it, you don't even know. Like maybe you're out there chasing this one path when other people see in you this other path completely that you're really good at, this other skill or aptitude. So that's something to think about. Alrighty, well, I hope this helped maybe lift a little bit of the confusion around why there is so much confusion right now, and why there is so much indecision. And, it's okay to sit for a little while with decisions, but I also, if I were you, would concentrate on clearing the karma right now through meditation. The violet flame meditation is very good for that. You can Google that and find information on it. Flower essences are great for clearing karma. In fact, I have a formula that I've created with my own flowers I've grown, Karma Cleanse. And I'm taking that right now. I do a round with that often in the fall every year. And then whenever we have retrogrades like this. So, but you don't even have to have Karma Cleanse. You could, if you don't have my formula, you can use some other flower essences, whatever ones that you work with. Homeopathy and flower essences both are very good for helping us move through karma more easily and more gently. So I do recommend that. And then also some of the energy work practices like Reiki, and then sound vibration healing. Uh, Music, but particularly certain kinds of sounds, can really, help us maybe loosen that karma a little, make it easier for us to deal with it. I mean, even just listening to relaxing music might put you in a space where you can open up more to the possibility of shifting your karma. Because here's the thing, the more karma you unload, you just deal with it and release it, the lighter you become. The less karma you have, the easier it is to move forward. Karma is by definition something that pulls us back into the past. So that's coming up right now. The past is reactivating. And even if it doesn't seem to be like people from the past patterns, past thoughts, maybe some of them are good, okay? Maybe some of them are helpful. And those you can bring forward into the present. But that's generally not what we're talking about when we're talking about karma. We're talking about fulfilling obligations and duties and rebalancing. If you went to an excess in one area of life or the other in the past, you have to come back to the middle now. And you have to maybe deal with yourself a little bit. But it doesn't have to be completely hard. If you use some of these tools that I've suggested here, the music, especially the meditative sounds, the hand pan sound, hand pan drum, chimes, gongs, maybe even flute. That lighter music that can help loosen things up is really good for that. The Reiki, energy healing, chanting, working with the runes. For some, maybe the tarot can be a good advisor. And on the subject of advisor, of course, maybe you don't know this, but when there's a lot of retrograde energy, that's actually a very good time to get a reading with a psychic or an astrologer. Or if you're gifted in the arts yourself, you can read for yourself. It's not quite the same when we read for ourselves. Sometimes we need that outside perspective to see, the forest from the trees, right? So maybe not always, though. I'll leave that up for you to decide. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Psychic Cynthia with my guides, and we are sending you many blessings, many bright blessings.